Good evening. We've now reached the time for Q&A. So the first question is from Ochita, I think. Dear Ajahn, would you be able to explain how merits are received by departed beings? And also, when we dedicate merits, is it only our immediate relatives who can receive them, or can any being who needs them receive them, as at some point we are all related to each other? Yeah, we've called this retreat Making Your Mind Firm in Merit, which is a good plan, but then it brings up all these questions about sharing merit. And thing is, with beings in other realms, when people die, we can't be sure where they've gone, what's happening. So we have to be careful, cautious in what we believe, what we think, because we can't absolutely prove what's going on when it comes to departed beings. We can take the words of the Buddha and teachers who have experience with the mind, and maybe through their samadhi and the development of psychic ability, they might be able to know and see beings in other realms, and may have some insight into how merit works. What we can know from our lives, that we can prove for ourselves, is that when you perform skillful actions, it generates good results for us and maybe the people around us who are alive, who we can see. Of course, they can benefit as well. So skillful actions such as the practice of generosity and charity, keeping precepts, practicing meditation, listening to the Dhamma, reflecting on Dhamma, we can see the good results of that and experience them for ourselves, in our own mind, in our own lives. And maybe people who are close to us can also see the benefits of the good that we're doing. And so there's not much doubt about that. But when it comes to beings in other realms, it's harder to prove exactly what's going on. Nevertheless, since ancient times, people have developed this custom of making merit for the dead. At funerals and during funeral services, maybe extended funeral services over long periods of time, sometimes 7 days, 15 days, 50 days, 100-day ceremonies, 1-year anniversary ceremonies, and so on. People make merit regularly for the dead in the belief that it can perhaps help them. The beings that the Buddha said could be helped are what we call hungry ghosts, pretas. So some people, when they die, they're in a state of woe, suffering. Not everybody is peaceful when they die, and the karma or the karmic results of various actions done in their life or in their unhappy state of mind can lead to them being reborn in a hungry ghost realm. It's that realm that the dedication of merit is particularly directed to. We don't know if our relatives die, where they're reborn, but just in case, we have this practice of dedicating merit to our departed loved ones. And we tend to focus on departed loved ones, family, friends, because they're the ones we know. But it doesn't mean to say that other beings who we're not immediately connected or close to couldn't receive merit or rejoice in the merit that's being made, but we don't know. So we do it out of faith, out of belief. We have to accept that. If we can't see beings in other realms, we make merit, share merit. And the idea is that the good actions we're doing are a cause for rejoicing. If they were to know what we're doing, these beings in other realms, in Peta realms, hungry ghost realm, it can be a cause for them to rejoice, just as when we're, say we contact somebody who we know is depressed or sick or in trouble, and we ring them up and they feel good because we're taking an interest in them, showing our support, our concern. Maybe we give them some help. You can see that in this life. In the same way, if somebody died and they were in a ghost realm and they were in any way able to know that you were making merit for them, doing good things, acts of charity, meditation, and so on their behalf, it would be a cause for their happiness if they were to know. And that happiness is a very special thing, because that can be literally a change in their mindset from being angry or depressed or unhappy in one way or another, or very attached to something. When they start to rejoice in the good that's been done in their name, that can lift the attachment or lift the state of depression or anger. And if it's strong merit, it can be a cause for that hungry ghost to be reborn in a better realm, a happier realm. It's really the mind recognizing the good that's been done, rejoicing, and literally, you feel happier, your mind is bolstered up, uplifted. So when we chant, we also say, may the devas let them know. We have to accept sometimes, because we can't see and we can't be sure where our merit is going, or to direct it very skillfully perhaps. Well, we want the devas to direct it for us, to let that being know that this goodness is being done on their behalf. So you could call the devas like, the news, or the journalists telling people what's happening in the world. They're telling the ghost, oh, did you know people are making merit for you? It's possible a deva could inform a hungry ghost or get them to know, to see what's being done. And there's many kinds of devas, so sometimes sangha are like devas. The sangha can be a channel for merit, particularly monks, nuns who meditate and have developed some samadhi. They can, a bit like a magnifying glass, you can channel the sun's rays and make a hot spot. If you hold a magnifying glass and channel the rays of sun, you can develop heat. In the same way, someone with a stronger, stable state of mind, with good sila, with samadhi, they can channel the goodness of somebody's merit to the being that needs it. So that's why we chant, oh, may the devas let them know, so that they can rejoice. Whether the ghost can really rejoice or not, and whether that can help them, will depend on their own karma and many factors. So just like human beings, sometimes you're kind to someone, but they don't respond. They don't recognize the kindness, or they're so upset or angry that they just don't want to respond in a skillful way. Their mood is so strong, their negative mood of suffering is so strong. Whatever kindness you show them, it doesn't lift, at least for a while. So a ghost could be the same. You might dedicate merit, and maybe that ghost just doesn't rejoice, doesn't get it, doesn't understand, doesn't want to understand or experience the happiness of what you're doing. So that's why we often make merit repeatedly over time. Maybe it requires many acts of merit before the mood lifts. Sometimes it's very quick, sometimes it might take years, who knows. And so you get these stories of places that are haunted, and there's some ghost there, and maybe it's been there for hundreds of years, and you get the impression maybe this ghost is either waiting for someone to make merit, and no one has made merit for them, or maybe they have made merit for them, but they're not getting it yet, so they're there suffering in that realm. So we hear in the time of the Buddha there were various hungry ghosts in different places, and occasionally you hear the report the Buddha smiled as he's walking down Gitchakutta mountain, and the monks ask, why are you smiling? And the Buddha says, well, there's this preta, hungry ghost there. And some teachers have said, well, some of the hungry ghosts that were around in the time of the Buddha are still there today, thousands of years later. Because in these realms, maybe you can be there a long time in these realms. Maybe the merit hasn't reached them, or no one's making enough merit for them, or their karma is so strong. But then maybe other hungry ghosts receive merit very quickly and are reborn out of that realm. So, as a monk, we don't talk much about the psychic aspect of life because it can lead to a lot of confusion. Some people believe, some disbelieve, some are skeptical. It's difficult to prove. The imagination can take over. So we tend to focus more on teaching things that you can really know and prove for yourself. That's more useful. But as a monk, sometimes monks talking to each other in private, well, we can talk more openly about these things. So you hear teachers talking about the power of merit. So I remember there's one teacher called Lumpur Wen who lived in northern Thailand, was considered to be an enlightened monk. And he's famous when he was alive, he would encourage everyone to sit meditation with full lotus posture and just stick with it and learn to sit in full lotus posture. And he'd have these very long evening meditations, sit meditation for much longer than we sat now. We just sat for about 45 minutes. But he'd get people to sit for hours and hours in full lotus. So he really pushed people hard and got some good results, I think. But anyway, he used to have a merit-making ceremony every year for his father. Because he said his father had been reborn in a hell realm and he wanted to make merit, dedicate it for his father. As I said, usually you associate merit-making with those who are born in the ghost realm. But anyway, he would make merit for his father in a hell realm until one year he said he's been reborn out of that realm now. He's, I think, attained human birth. So sometimes you hear these stories from monks with deep samadhi, psychic ability, and they can see the effects of merit making, and that kind of reinforces people's belief in the power, the effectiveness of merit making. And as we always say, there's nothing lost if you make merit for the dead. You're doing something skillful at a time when you're grieving, unhappy. It's a good way to deal with the grief and the separation of loss of death. And if it can also help the one who's departed, well, so much the better. And the reason we make merit for the relatives is because, well, they're relatives. They're people who are close to us. We knew them, we remember them. So the feeling tends to be stronger. So it's easier to make merit than for people you don't know. But as we chant when we offer Sanghadana or in other ceremonies, we say we share the merit with all sentient beings. And so it is possible that beings who are not immediately or closely related to us may still rejoice in the good that's been done. Just as when you go to a monastery or participate in some event and merit making is being done, there are offerings made, people keep precepts, people meditate, listen to Dhamma, you could go and you might not know anyone there. You're a stranger. You sit down and you see all these people doing these good things, and you could share in that good occasion, and you feel happy, joy, maybe even rapture and bliss arises watching or participating in that ceremony, and you're not related to anyone there. So merit ultimately, it's not self. It doesn't belong in one sense. It does belong to each individual. In a higher sense, it's selfless. It's not self. So, merit literally just means skillful or wholesome states of mind arising, and that can arise in the heart of a relative, family member, or a stranger. It's not limited in that sense. The next question from Wong Yok Mei in Malaysia. Forgive me if I pronounce your name wrong. Dear Ajahn, one of the right efforts is to prevent the arising of unwholesome states of mind. I am in a dilemma when the situation calls for an action which I know will bring up unwholesome states in me, such as fear, anxiety, worry. If I don't take that particular action, it seems like I am avoiding a situation, with the result of doing that action may also unfold a new potential in me. What are the skillful ways to handle such a dilemma? It's difficult to give one simple or direct or general answer here. It depends on the situation, doesn't it? Like, the Buddha talked about, as we make karma, there's karma that is painful now but leads to a good result. And then there's karma that's painful now and leads to a painful result. There are different aspects to the things we do. So like, for example, you join this meditation retreat and you've determined, I'm going to sit and walk and listen to the Dhamma and chant and follow the program. But you also know, as you do that, maybe out of past experience, it might bring up some resistance in your mind. You're sitting and you've got pain in your legs and you start to feel irritated, or you're sitting for a long period and you feel bored, or you feel sleepy. So when you're doing meditation, you may have unwholesome states of mind arise in the course of that practice. But it doesn't mean to say you shouldn't do it. You're learning from your experience, and sometimes you have to be willing to accept that some unwholesome states will arise in the course of doing your practice, whether it's offering dana or keeping precepts or meditating. It's not always easy, but it's a manageable challenge, you might say. The level of stress or suffering that might arise in the course of doing that action, meditating, for example, is not that serious, not that extreme, and you're actually learning, and you may gain insight into your attachments and cravings and let go of some of them as you're practicing. So you're facing dukkha, suffering. You may have some suffering arise, but in the end you're transcending it because you're developing mindfulness, patient effort, some insight. And really that's the only way to go, isn't it? Like, if you're always going to protect yourself to the point where you never experience any pain or suffering, you never push yourself, you never confront your attachments, it's very difficult to improve your practice or grow in the practice. So you'll see, every meditation retreat, you're bound to have at least one period of dukkha or unwholesome mind states may arise, but hopefully the overall picture is that you're learning from the experience, you're growing, you're improving in your practice. So that kind of being willing to face up to unwholesome states or do things that may bring up unwholesome states is just part of the life, isn't it? It's part of the practice. But then there's other situations where perhaps you're doing something unskillful or unnecessary and you're going to bring up suffering that doesn't help you to learn and doesn't help you improve. It's just unnecessary suffering that may bring you down. There are those activities and actions that can happen in that way as well. So you have to consider what you're doing and why and what's your goal. And the Buddha encouraged us to consider the kind of karma we're making, our intention, our goals, frequently. So before you do things, to consider, why am I doing this? What's the benefit to me, to others? What are the drawbacks? And then if you're engaging in that action, you're actually performing that activity or saying those words or doing that thing, consider again one more time, is this really for my benefit, or the benefit of others, or is it harming me, harming others? And then consider again afterwards, you've done the deed, was that really for my benefit or the benefit of others, or did it bring harm to me, to others? So our practice is one of learning. sometimes it is correct to avoid a situation if you know that it's going to bring up so much stress you may not be able to cope. It may lead you to do something or say something very unwholesome, unskillful. Sometimes it is correct to avoid things, just you know your level, what you can manage. Other times you may not have a choice. You feel, I have to do this, and it may bring up some negativity or anxiety, but I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm going to try and learn from that, let go and overcome the negativity, anxiety. We have to learn by reflecting on our actions and seeing what's appropriate, knowing our own limits, our own level, how much metta we have, how much mindfulness we have, how much patience we have. And it's fair enough, sometimes you consider a situation and you think, I can't manage this for now, I'm too tired, or I don't have the confidence to do it. So you decide, I'm not going to do that. Or you may postpone it, or you may cancel altogether, or just avoid altogether. And that's fair enough. If you've really considered it and looked from a few different angles, maybe you might make that decision. Other times you just have to chance it and you risk it and you do something and you're not sure. You might think, oh, it may bring up some unwholesome states of mind, but we'll see, and you just see how you go. And you can't always know in advance what's going to happen, so sometimes we're pleasantly surprised. Like here, every so often we have all-night sitting meditation practice, and people come and they join in, and often when they've never done it before, they say, whoa, that sounds difficult. I know it will make me very tired or moody or irritable because, staying up all night meditating, that doesn't sound very good. But then they come and do it, and sometimes when they see other people doing it, they put effort in, they say, oh, it was much easier than I thought, and I could do it. So we really have to consider our own attitudes in things. Sometimes our own attitude is very negative from the outset, and that's our really biggest obstacle. It's not the problems or the unwholesome states that may occur in the course of that action. It may be just our own negativity from the outset. We're just looking at it in a negative way. I can't do this, I can't do that. And we haven't even given it a go, haven't even tried. And it does hold us back in the practice of Dhamma. Sometimes, our fear of difficulty, meditation, doing dana, keeping precepts. It's easier not to keep the precepts, easier just to do whatever I feel like. Sometimes we think like that, but in the long run you might reflect back and realise, maybe it would have been better if I'd been more disciplined, kept the precepts in that situation. So I think the important thing is to keep reflecting on cause and effect and learning from your experience, and you'll get better, and you will maybe learn many new things. Ajahn Chah is famous for bringing people's potential out by getting them to stay up later than they would normally stay up, or get up earlier than they would normally get up in the morning, or practice meditation when they're tired or when they're hot, or getting them to do work or chores when they would rather not, and getting people to do all kinds of things, getting monks to sit up and give Dhamma talks like this when they'd rather not. You probably are all aware of Ajahn Sumedho's first Dhamma talk under Ajahn Chah, when he didn't want to give a talk, but Ajahn Chah said, you've got to get up on the high seat and give a talk in Thai. And Ajahn Sumedho didn't want to do it, but he did it, and it went all right, and he realised, it's not as bad as I thought. So life is like that. Good teachers are often pushing people, pushing their potential a bit, and you have to accept that in life. If you want to grow and learn, you sometimes have to push things a bit. Next question is from Melbourne. The question is, Dear Ajahn, this is from Kim, is wasting food an action that includes bad karma or induces bad karma? Some parts of Buddhism do mention, reduce the font a little bit please so that I can see the whole question. Stop? Okay, yeah, sorry. Ajahn, is wasting food an action that induces bad karma? Some parts of Buddhism do mention one will become a hungry ghost if one always wastes food? What if you are offered more than you can consume? Well, I can speak about this because every day in this monastery since day one we've been offered more food than we can consume. Today there was masses of food. It's quite a normal experience in the world these days. It wasn't like that when I was a young monk. Sometimes there wasn't enough food, but nowadays the world is a wealthy place and Buddhists are more wealthy and very generous and kind. So every day we have this problem. I think the number one issue is watch your mind and know your intention. So try not to deliberately waste food or other things, other consumables. You do your best in different situations to try and take a modest amount. If it's food, just take enough for your needs. If you're in a monastery where you eat one meal a day, you have one vessel, one bowl, and you just take enough, and you learn what is the right amount for you. And you have to watch your desires, because desire is what leads you to take more than you can eat. And to indulge desire is an unwholesome thing. So you practice mindfulness, restraint, wise reflection, and you learn. And in the lay life, it's the same. I knew one family where the father wanted to feel good by always taking his wife and kids out for food, out in restaurants and cafes every night. And he ran up huge bills to the point where he got into big debt because he was doing it just to impress his family, impress others. And he was living beyond his means. And it led to a lot of stress and suffering for everyone involved. So we have to be honest and manage our money, manage our food, not to indulge. And of course, there's still a lot of poverty in the world. So try to manage your consumption. Maybe learn to save a bit for others, whether it's literally what you have in a day, the food you get, or whether it's your money, your income, your wealth. You can always share a bit with others and develop generosity, reduce some of your attachment. When we talk about the karma that leads to being a hungry ghost, well, that would probably be someone who's quite extreme in their indulgence. I was in a monastery once where there was one lady who came regularly to help out in the kitchen of that monastery, so as a volunteer. But it turned out over many months that maybe she had an ulterior motive and she was constantly stealing food and other items from the kitchen. And when this was found out, eventually somebody asked her to leave and not come back because turned out she was a thief. And the teacher in that monastery said that unless she really changes, that karma is so strong, the karma of being a thief, that maybe she'll be reborn as a hungry ghost. So sometimes our greed can get the better of us in different situations, especially stealing from monasteries, which are places where people are just doing things out of their good intention to support Sangha and support good practice in the community. But anywhere where you take advantage of others, you exploit others with food or money or other consumables, then you have to watch your state of mind. Your greed, your attachment is bringing your mind down from a higher level. Ask yourself, the mind of someone who is giving, sharing, that's a better state of the mind than the mind of somebody who wants for themselves. They're clinging, wanting, following their attachment, following their greed. Which is a better state of mind? Which brings more peace, more happiness to the holder of that state of mind? As you reflect more on this, then you become more modest in what you consume, and you tend to become more aware of other people's suffering and think of helping them more than helping yourself so much. Next question. Dear Ajahn, lately as I was feeling down, a friend of mine who is also a Kalyana Mitta signed me up for an online Buddhist teaching program of another tradition without my permission. She said it has structured teaching and I'll benefit from it. I had some aversion at first. She then said that I may have some prejudice against the tradition and I should join with an open mind. You should join with an open mind. That comment made me feel vulnerable, especially when she is my good friend and I do not want to create bad karma being deemed disrespectful of another tradition. Ajahn, please guide me in my dilemma. Yeah, it's a dilemma, isn't it? I don't think the Buddha encouraged us to force people to do things, to force them even to follow the Buddha or believe in the Buddha or practice Buddhism. The Buddha encouraged us to come and see for ourselves, make our own decision. So to join in a meditation retreat, you undertake that voluntarily. Your friend may encourage you and say, a good idea, but ultimately it should be your own decision, it should be voluntary. The Buddha didn't encourage us to convert people or force them to do anything. I think he trusted in the goodness and the wisdom of the Dhamma that as it becomes apparent to people, they'll want to follow, they'll want to practice through their own opening up to the truth. And that's how we teach here, and that's how Ajahn Chah used to teach. He never forced anyone to do the practice, he just encouraged them for their own good, but left it up to individuals. So it's, if your friend is kind of signing you up for things that you didn't want to do, or you retain your ability to decide. You can tell them, I don't want to do this, if that's how you feel, or you may try and do it, but you shouldn't feel pressure. It's up to you. And they may try and make you feel guilty, it sounds like it, trying to say, oh, you're not practicing, you're not respecting the tradition. Well, you can respect a tradition from afar as well as from up close. So, as a Buddhist monk in Ajahn Chah Sangha, there's many other Buddhist traditions I'm aware of, but I never go and participate in their events. But it's not that I don't like them or I'm disrespectful, it's just time is limited. You only live one life and you can't try everything. It's a bit like the supermarket. Nowadays the supermarket's got so much stuff in it, you couldn't possibly try every brand, every product before you die. There's too much. Buddhism is like that. You can try so much, and after a while you realize, you're just trying a little bit here, a little bit there. It's not always that satisfactory. A little bit of experimentation, trying things, being open-minded is good, but maybe you've found a tradition that you're satisfied with, you're comfortable with, you have faith in. Well, just push on with that. Maybe really explore that tradition and put your effort into it. You might find you get a lot out of it. So I'm lucky. I discovered Ajahn Chah was the first Buddhist monk I saw and had faith in, and I came to live in his monastery and I ordained under him, and I haven't been disappointed. And I'm open to the fact there are many other good teachers in the world, and I respect them, and I'm happy to listen to them when the chance arises, but I don't need to because I've got a good teacher already. So, a bit of experimentation, trying out different retreats, different teachers is fine, but sometimes you also have to just accept, you haven't got enough time in your life to do everything. You also need to push on and go more deeper into the practice that you're doing already, perhaps. So, next question. Hi Ajahn, just like to know that when a person passes away during the first 49 days, will his or her mind still linger around the realm or reincarnate elsewhere? Around this realm or reincarnate elsewhere? Depends, doesn't it? As I said, it's difficult to talk about things you can't see or prove. But just studying the Buddhist text, the words of the Buddha, and listening to teachers, you can get the idea. There are many different realms of existence. Beings, when they pass away, their stream of consciousness may arise in a Deva realm, Devaloka, in a Brahma realm, in animal realm, in a ghost realm, in a hell realm. back as a human. It's possible. So beings, their experience is determined by their karma. So no two beings will have the same karma. No two beings will experience the same things straight after death. Some may become ghosts, some may go to a deva realm. I always love the story of the village headman of Gengwai village, which is a village not far from Wat Map Chan where Luang Por Anand lives. And he always had a dream to offer land to start a Buddhist monastery. He's a village headman, so he had some influence, some access to land in the region. And eventually he came to Ajahn Kalyano and said, "Can you send some monks? I want to start a monastery." So his dream came true. There was a bit of land available, and monks went to live there and are still living there today. It's become a thriving monastery. But that village headman, not long after he offered the land and started the monastery, he became ill with cancer. So it's very fortuitous that he completed his goal of offering dana, offering land to the Sangha and starting the monastery. He completed that, and then he got cancer, which turned out to be terminal. And he passed away. And at his funeral, so his funeral is 7 days after he's died, not 49 days, if I remember. At his funeral, the monks are chanting, large number of people came, and one person from the village during the funeral ceremony had this amazing vision, seeing a heavenly vehicle, kind of chariot with lots of devas coming down, bear with me, picking up the ghost of the village headman who was kind of there at the funeral, just sort of standing near his coffin, loading him onto this heavenly chariot and taking him back up to a heaven realm. So if anything is an advertisement for offering land to build a monastery, that is guaranteed lots of good karma, lots of good resultant karma from that action. So he didn't have to wait 49 days. Very quickly after his death, he had a very good experience taking up to a heaven realm. Hopefully he's still there today, I don't know. So people can very quickly be reborn in a lower realm, in a higher realm. It doesn't have to be 49 days. But, we have traditions and customs grow up because sometimes it's helpful for people, gives them structure to our practice. So we have merit-making ceremonies after 7 days, 15 days, 49 days, 100 days, 1 year. But exactly how long it takes or which realm people go to and how long it takes, it all depends. So we have stories of people who did a lot of good karma in their life, but they did some bad karma as well. So when they died, they spent 7 days in a hell realm and then reborn in a heaven realm afterwards. Or people are reborn in a heaven realm first and then go down to a lower realm afterwards. And it can be 7 days or 7 years or 49 days or 49 years. It depends on the karma. There's no one simple answer here, but we've been talking a lot about merit today, and this weekend it's Qingmeng, the ceremony where we make merit for our ancestors, show our respect for our ancestors. So it is a kind of a pertinent question. And the Buddhist teaching is that when somebody dies, they are reborn according to their karma, and sometimes we can help them by sharing merit. So we do. There's many ways we can make merit. Like I always remember on Qingmeng, I remember the story of Venerable Yasser. He's one of the first Buddhist monks to come and practice with the Buddha after his enlightenment. He's the first 5 ascetics who heard the Dhammacakka Sutta and then became enlightened here in the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta. But later the Buddha met with Yasser, this young wealthy man. He's like the son of nowadays he'd probably be, son of a millionaire from very good family, and he had a very pampered upbringing. You might say he's spoiled. The best food, the best entertainments, best dancing girls, food, music, everything, the best, the best, the best. But then gradually he got weary of it. At a very young age, he started to develop deep insight into the impermanence and suffering of life. And you may know the story. One night, it's probably a Saturday night, the party's over, everybody had been drinking and dancing, and then they all kind of collapse in a heap. And he was just watching all this, and then in the middle of the night, even all the beautiful young women were lying there snoring and dribbling and looking all messy, and the men were all passed out from drinking too much. And he just looked around and he said, wow, this is just miserable. He had a very strong feeling of revulsion to the excesses of human life and the foolishness of humans who don't pursue a spiritual path. So he got up and he left home. He just walked off saying, this is far too confusing for me. I don't want to stay somewhere where there's so much confusion and no one's practicing. So he wandered off into the forest in the middle of the night, and his good karma brought him to meet the Buddha. In the early morning he came and met the Buddha, who was sitting meditating, and the Buddha said, oh, come Yasser, and come and practice here. Here is not a confusing place. Here is a very peaceful place, and you can do a lot of good here. And that intrigued Yasser. That gave rise to faith, hearing the Buddha, who knew his name already. So, he must be a good teacher. He knows my name without me telling him. The Buddha was peaceful. He was meditating. The atmosphere was good. So he decided to stay, and he became one of the first Buddhist monks. But they say this whole incident of him realizing the suffering of life and having this sense of turning away from the excesses, the hedonism of drinking and partying, was actually the result of previous lives. He had, for many lives, had one practice. With his friends, he'd go to cemeteries where people had been buried without any relatives, without any funerals taking place, and out of compassion he'd dig up the bodies and perform proper funerals with proper funeral rites and share merit with these dead people, because they knew they hadn't had anyone do this for them before. When they died, they'd just been dumped in the cemetery, no funeral, no one had made merit for them. So out of compassion, that used to be their kind of hobby, or their charity work was to perform funerals for people who had been dumped and no one had done that. And they say, having done that for many, many lifetimes, he developed strong awareness of asupa, sanya, the perception of the unattractiveness of the body, digging up corpses, skeletons. These left impressions on his mind. And so when he was sitting meditating on the Saturday night when the party's over, he had these very vivid asupa nimittis, seeing people in states of like corpses, beautiful people who are now just lying around like corpses. That was the karmic result of having helped perform funerals over many, many lifetimes. So it's something you can think of at Qingming. It's time to make merit for the dead people you know, people you don't know. Make merit for them, and it's a time to reflect on the sadness of life. We all end up getting old, sick, and dying. People we know die, people we don't know die. That's the cycle of samsara, isn't it? Nobody lives forever. Nothing lasts forever. When you reflect on that, hopefully it brings up this feeling of samvega. That sadness leads on to a sense of urgency. I want to practice. I want to reach the end of suffering, because I can see however good life is, however much wealth you have, however much pleasure, power, fame, fortune, all the kind of worldly dhammas that people pursue these days, ultimately they're temporary and they're not satisfying. So we can all be like Yasser tonight. We can reflect on this and share merits with our dead ancestors and focus our mind on Nibbana and developing this path for Nibbana, so we can really free ourselves from suffering, and also share the merits with others, wishing them to be free from suffering. So maybe tonight I'll leave the Q&A session there, and so we'll just pay respects to the Triple Gem and take a break, and we'll see you in the morning.